I am in Moundsville, West Virginia, and this here is the West Virginia Penitentiary. This was at many times one of the worst prisons in the entire country, and since it is closed, it is now a museum, and I'm gonna go see what's inside, so let's go check this out. The building itself is massive. Today it's in the middle of town and there's houses lived in by people across the street. It was this way even in the later years of the prison, but when it was built it was outside the town of Moundsville. And it is also across from the ancient Grave Creek Mound. The giant Gothic castle has battlements and turrets, so it's a really awesome looking building. The prison was designed based on the Joliet, Illinois prison featured in Blues Brothers, built a decade earlier. When West Virginia seceded from Virginia, they had a shortage of a lot of infrastructure, including prisons. The county prisons were unable to control the prison population, so in 1866 the legislature, then 12 miles north in Wheeling, approved the Moundsville Penitentiary. There was a temporary wooden prison built that year. Then in 1868 they started construction on this beast. Inside there's a really interesting museum featuring many amazing wood carvings and objects made by very bored prisoners from whatever they could salvage. Some memorabilia regarding the guards and police of West Virginia. These are some Smith & Wesson shotguns used by guards here. This is a wall of shanks and other terrifying weapons created by inmates here. That's a tattoo gun made from an electric shaver motor. From 1899 to 1949, executions were done by hanging right here at the penitentiary. And these are the photos of 85 men hanged here, and they have a book with information about all of them. That was very interesting. This is on Harry F. Powers. He was hanged here in 1932. He would woo women through Lonely Hearts ads, then murder them and their children. This is an eye magnet used here to remove objects from the eyes. The death mask of the penitentiary's Dr. Robert Ashworth. And they have displayed all sorts of scary medical tools used here. The 1971 film Fool's Parade, starring Jimmy Stewart, was based off an escape here, and it was filmed at the penitentiary and around Marshall County. This is Old Sparky, the West Virginia Penitentiary's electric chair. From 1951 to 1959, this chair was used to electrocute 9 men to death. There were 3 execution buttons that were pressed simultaneously by 3 people, so no one really knew who the executioner was. Now heading into the penitentiary, it was very secure with lots of big guns around. This is the newer visitation room used during the last 20 years. The inmates would be on this side. That's an inmate's painting of the New River Gorge. That artist later got stabbed through the eye here. Charles Manson once asked to be transferred here in order to be closer to his family, however he was denied. This room was formerly the mess hall, but later turned into the room for those waiting to visit with inmates, and a trio of inmates painted the room so kids would feel more comfortable. The reason the cafeteria got moved was because the last major riot was here. The rioters took 16 hostages, 3 were killed, and they were doing this to get a new cafeteria. The governor had to come here in person and end the standoff by making an agreement for a cafeteria with heating and air conditioning. That is the most ripped and muscular unicorn I've ever seen. That's hilarious. One inmate made this papier-mâché diorama of a native family for the Grave Creek Mound Museum across the street. I have a video on that, but it got taken out when some complained about the nudity. This place is one of the most haunted in the country. A lot of the paranormal shows have been here to film episodes. This specific doorway is very haunted, and it was the main focus of the pilot episode for MTV's Fear Factor. This is the new cafeteria. There would have been bolted down tables and chairs all around here. So in the latter years, this was the most luxurious place the inmates could go due to being the only place with air conditioning and heating. My tour guide was a former guard at this facility, so he had some stories. I was on the tour with another family, and the dad was a guard at the current Mount Olive Correctional Complex, where the inmates here were moved to, and they were talking about the same guys who are here and are there now. This kitchen is also a hotbed for paranormal activity. In the mid-80s, the West Virginia Supreme Court ruled that the 5-by-7-foot cells were cruel and unusual punishment under the 8th Amendment, and the conditions were also inhumane, so it was ordered shut down and officially closed in 1995. All the stones were hand cut, and these walls were built over a period of over 30 years, and much of the stone is around 6 feet thick. So you can see some fossils in the stone. Also, there were gangs here even back when it was being constructed, and their signs are graffitied into the building. KKK is carved into that stone, so many Klansmen have been imprisoned here. Also, there were actual inmates from Mount Olive here mowing the lawn and doing some other work, so I was just within feet of them passing by. The gallows were right here where this basketball court is now, and also the facility with the electric chair was here before it was destroyed after 1959. They stopped doing public hangings in 1931 because they accidentally decapitated a guy in front of a large crowd. Yikes. This is the oldest part of the prison, the wagon gate, which looks amazing and very creepy. The guides used to surprise visitors by pulling a lever, opening the trapdoor, and there would be a dummy hanging directly above them. However, they were forced to stop this practice, which is unfortunate. That would have been pretty fun. Now into the actual cell blocks. This is the North Hall, where the worst inmates were kept. This area was known as the Alamo because the inmates would often hurl urine and vomit onto the guards when they walked through. Here are some examples of the 5-by-7 cells, many still with graffiti made by the inmates. That radioactive skull is a gang sign. That's from a New Orleans gang. There was much violence in this area. There are officially listed 36 homicides that took place within these walls, but that's a conservative estimate. In 1979, 15 prisoners escaped by stealing some weapons from the guards, and one of them, Rodney Williams, killed an officer, and was able to remain at large for 18 months, making the FBI top 10 most wanted list, and he was only finally apprehended after many crimes and murders across the country with a shootout with federal officials in a New York City hotel. This was the warden's living area. The wardens would often live with their families in the old prisons. This was the revolving cell door into the warden's living quarters, and it was also used by Jimmy Stewart in Fool's Parade. There are actually 10 cell blocks. This cell has the most graffiti of any cell here. It's actually really cool, and it was used in filming of the Netflix series Mindhunter. Also, that's a real used glory hole. This is the most detailed drawing in the prison. That's actually pretty good. And in this cell block, the automatic doors still work. So I got to be literally locked up in a cell. This was the entrance to the hole, the solitary confinement area underground. Definitely a place you would not want to be going, but there was also a game room down there, so going down those stairs could be a good thing, but probably really bad. This yard was used for recreation, but it's also a large cemetery. The guide said that there are probably around 700 people buried here, mostly inmates here, though from my understanding the remains were usually transferred to a different cemetery in town or given back to families. But regardless, there's still quite a few people buried underground here, all unmarked. The Smiley family was a gang. That's really creepy. In summary, this is one of the last places I would ever want to end up in, but it was fun to tour. So that was the West Virginia Penitentiary. A very interesting place. Got to see a lot of neat things. Kind of weird though, it's like actually like really busy, and then there's like inmates. I think they're still staring me down while I'm doing this, so yeah, really interesting. Definitely recommend. If you like this video, I've done a few other videos at like prison museums and all sorts of weird places, so please go check those out, and thanks for watching.